Virgo, hello, and welcome to your love reading for the week of August 12th through to the 19th. Let's dive in. So you guys are having a lot of interactions with the divine. The divine is speaking through a lot of people who you love, who are in your life. And Virgos, you tended in a past life or even in this life to not give yourself enough credit, to not give yourself enough love. You've been a lot more skeptical of your abilities than encouraging. And I sense that this Leo season, the tides are turning. We have the King of Wands who keeps showing up this Leo season. And it is the card of Leo. It's the card of the inner child, having authority, getting the final vote, getting to decide where we stop for dessert, ice cream. And with Sagittarius as you all's fourth house, perhaps those of you guys who struggled growing up to have a bigger vision for yourself, your life, and your world are finally going to get a chance, an opportunity to choose again, to give your inner child a second chance at having a childhood that you didn't get to have or that might have been taken from you. We have the sun. So you guys are absolutely feeling this very Martian energy of Mars and Jupiter, which will form a direct conjunction, a combustion, I've heard, on Tuesday the 13th of August at 16 degrees. So that's happening in you all's 10th house of career. The Magician. This is a very promising reading. For those of you guys who are traveling or working with transportation, just understand that your energy is going to feel really fun. You're going to be both balanced enough to sightsee, and you'll want to read all of the little placards on your traveling guidance, on the travel guides. But I would say for any travel guidance, you need to make that decision again to have fun. If you guys feel like you're often caught in stalemates, in arguments, in scenarios that you don't really necessarily want to be in, how much of you all are anticipating these things happening? How often do you just say, I'm sure it's going to be an amazing time? Can you affirm that for me in the comments? For those of you guys taking trips, whether locally, even if you have to commute into work, you could affirm daily at the start of your day, I'm going to have an amazing day. And one affirmation that I've started to play around with to modify it for my vibe on a day-to-day basis is, I will receive a gift today. And sometimes that gift comes in the form of a message, a song that I hear that just uplifts me, an actual physical gift, or one of my talents that I decide to take out into the world and have fun with. The other day I took myself on an artist date to the aquarium, and Krishna is speaking to, with the King of Wands, there's definitely a Gemini in your midst, someone who, they're very structured in the way that they approach their creativity. Let's get a deeper look into Krishna, but essentially the gifts sometimes will be in a form of a message, a song, an actual gift, or when I go to play with it and say, for dream recall, let's say I've commanded and decreed, because that's how we're supposed to work with reality, is not to ask, not to pray with a bowed head and a hopeful heart, but a trusting, empowered heart. On the day that I received my white piano, which is one with weighted keys and it's digital, I said, I will receive a gift today that reminds me of my dreams. And I don't know if I said dreams or dream, but it's just funny how that came into reality in that way. I didn't know I was going to receive this. I asked my husband for it, but I've asked him for plenty of stuff and he's just sort of been like either yes or no. So Virgo, again, make that decision to ask for what your heart wants. To understand that if you put down one decision that you've made, you can remake it again in the future. But until that time comes, you need to be open to what your heart is asking you for, open to this Gemini who I sense is here to help you get really clear on what it is that you're going for, get really clear on what needs to be cut away. Let's see what Krishna has to say. We belong with our heart. As a tongue of fire, Kali Krishna consumes all offerings. She is the divine capacity to receive our prayers, our pains, our craziness, and our graceful heroism. She receives it all. She not only receives it, but as fire, she transforms the offering so it can nourish, heal, revitalize, and purify the soul. What prayers have you had that would really set you on fire if they came true? What prayers do you have for your inner child to get this second chance at childhood? There's a deeper purpose to making an offering, the opening up of a channel between ourselves and the divine. The divine doesn't need to be cajoled into loving or wanting to help us. So I feel that maybe for those of you guys wanting to make an offering of some sort, whether that is a prayer, whether that is an offering of your gifts to the community, Leo is your 12th house. So I do sense that there is some form of a spiritual energy behind something that you could do to empower your inner child. So let's say this, you were told that you would be an amazing writer one day, and you decide as an offering that you're going to take a course, whether that's like the Artist Way series. It's a 12-week, I think 12-week journaling course. I've done it 3 times, and essentially it's like the work that we do, we affirm that we are working through God and that God loves artists. So if you're thinking, Virgo, about making some form of offering but you don't know where to get started, I highly recommend going with the Artist Way as a way to get yourself off the ground. And with the Chariot, it seems like you're going to do just that. But I sense, I'm going to pull from the Healing Waters Oracle deck, that there's some healing that needs to happen around you, your inner child, maybe the ways that you were grown up and disciplined. Maybe you didn't have a lot of structure or discipline, which is why that Krishnau came as a masculine form to say, hey, we need structure here if we're going to implement this offering, this sacred gift of our creative voice. We need to have a non-judgmental arena. The Water Carrier, what really matters, reflect and reprioritize. So the Chariot means that things are moving forward. I think especially when you are able to reflect and reprioritize. The moon does cross over into Sagittarius on Tuesday the 13th, this day of the combustion, the day that Mercury is at 0 degrees Virgo and will get back eventually to 29 degrees Libra. So for my Virgos, the ways that you're thinking is going to open up the floodgates. Maybe you'll have immense relief come through for how you've been viewing your potential to have a voice, to raise your voice, to put yourself out into the world. And as you're able to reprioritize and get down to the brass tacks of what you need, as far as a support system, as far as a community to help push you along, you can always pray. You can always ask for God to send you signs about where to go for help. And when those signs come, don't be skeptical, because they might come in different forms. So they'll just put, if you trust your intuition the first time, it's like taking the direct road. There's no such thing as a shortcut. But I would say that the first thing that comes in, especially if it's something that you've interacted with before the retrograde, if it's someone who you've been in touch with for a long time and maybe things fell off, and now in this retrograde you're able to feel a lot more intuitive or logical, just depending on how your brain works. If your Mercury is retrograde or direct, just depending on your chart, you're going to be able to sense the way forward, and it's going to feel very resoundingly clear. It's going to be like striking a bell. For the Sun card, I think Healing Waters wants to go again. We have the cherubs giving you a flower, and on the Sun card we have, I think that's David by Michelangelo, and he's holding his crutch. So he has some imperfections, but he's not letting it get the best of him, because ultimately he's draped in this red gouache drawing that Dali made. We have making waves, momentum is building, it's your time and achievement. So this card does have the Gemini glyph, and I wonder if in the course of this week we'll see a sextile between Mars and the Sun. Let's see. I'm going to go all the way to the 19th. Oh, it's moving a little too slow. Well, on the Sunday the 18th, before the new moon, or the full moon in Aquarius at 27 degrees, where we take action to get to where we belong, we have the Sun conjoined Mercury retrograde at 26 degrees. So Virgo, you will feel really empowered to start making waves and to actually ride your wave. We have the Magician card. So Mana deck was very clear. Maybe you're working to enhance your spiritual practice by getting more in touch with your local vendors, local market. This card represents compassion, Malama Hoe. And we see a butterfly, which does represent creativity. So the Magician is saying to rehash something. I cannot speak more highly of taking a project that you started before the retrograde period, the specific one, something that you abandoned a long time ago. And because this is happening in Virgo and Leo, it's something that you might have once wanted for your daily life. You might have once wanted to be a vlogger or a blogger, and you decided, no one's really paying attention. If you pay attention to you and you give yourself either a year, 1,000 posts, even 100 posts, you will start to see the resistance lift. Because I feel that, the way that reality works, it's sort of like the same way the algorithm works. It pays attention to what you do and what you interact with the most. If you're praising yourself, if you're adding lots of love in, if when you go to write that blog, you're at your favorite cafe, having your favorite drink, and you're focused, you'll see that return a lot more quickly. But if it takes you a long time, you struggle and you think about writer's block, you're resistant, you're hungry, you're thinking about the clock, you will see that returned, and you'll find that your project has a lot of resistance around it. Like, people are actually repelled by it. But when you're really loving what you do, you're having fun with it, your inner child is free to make offerings, to say, hey, look at what I drew. And it's like scribbles, but that parent who gives that praise or that critical feedback to say, hey, let's draw this together. I'm that parent who I'm like, color everything in, even if it's scribbles, just so that the child has a sense of completion. Even if what you're doing isn't yet the final product, have compassion for yourself. Have compassion for where you are at creatively. Set yourself up for success. Rick Rubin has a book called, it's not The Artist's Way, but it's like art or something. It has something to do with art. That's such a solid read. It's like the more spiritual, dialed in version of The Artist's Way. He speaks about the same things, and it's nice to have both. So this Two of Swords, and it feels like a book. Maybe you're just choosing which book to go with to make sure that your project progresses along. I'd like to pull a Sacred Symbols Oracle to help you with that decision, Virgo. We have shadow work. Maybe your shadow work is something that, you can make everything like a fictitious alias character, and it can be the story that you have within yourself, and you can give the voices in your head that have inhibited you or gave you harsh criticism character names, and those can eventually help you to grow your relationship with yourself. The less dependence that we have on the outer world at this time, especially until Mercury's out of shadow, which will be until September 11th, potentially. It's kind of confusing how I wrote that, but essentially until the 11th of September, Mercury will be in shadow. So we can't rely on outer world feedback, but what we can do is we can show up daily to what it is that we love and trust in the results. Awakening, energetic upgrades, a new way of being, integration. So shadow integration is beautiful. And maybe it's just every time that you sat down to start your work, you would allow for yourself to get distracted. But with things that you complain about, you know exactly what the deal is. So you sit down for that. So talk your inner child into having fun with whatever this offering is that you're wanting to make to your inner child, to the divine, for your heart. And trust that as you love yourself and you don't let other people's feedback, because I even have a friend who, she went viral and then she stopped doing the almost bot-like posts, because if we post like a bot, then bot-like people are going to come to us, and we're going to have all these very superficial symbolic interactions. But when you actually get down to it, humans don't act that way. We aren't going to be as consistent unless we time everything out and plan everything out, which we can do. But, as we are humans, it's okay to understand that when you live your life for you, and you don't need a number of followers, you don't need a number of readers, you're just allowing for your passion to live a little and to have its own place in the world, and you're willing to take up space in your own life and stop turning to a Netflix series. Even though that's fun, you could write your grandkids a letter in the case that they're wanting to hear from you. Or you can find ways to pull out those old fabrics and just knit a quilt, because our brain and our hands work together. So anything we can do, even if it's a little 10-minute session, then we get right back to watching our favorite show, or we do it at the same time, as long as it's not too distracting, which is something that we have to get away from, getting distracted so easily as a society, and get more dialed in into what matters to us. We will reprioritize, we will integrate, and we will feel the inheritance of the divine in our everyday life, Virgo. Affirm for me in the comments. I easily follow my heart and intuition. And until next time, I will see you guys soon. Aloha.